Welcome to Rewilding Love. This season is with a couple on the brink of divorce.
This is episode 15, Love Rewilded.
Never wanted to hurt you, you know?
That I'm not like this terrible person in your life.
There's always learning and growth available.
For whatever reason, we find ourselves in a low mood, and then we go looking for a fall guy. We go looking for someone to pin it on.
It's just like another regret I'm gonna have to live with, for the rest of my life.
Once something is seen, it can't be unseen. So he's seen something on a fairly deep level.
I put it into my head that you've already done this and spoke with God a lot and prayed about it and gave up that burden.
When we let go of judgment and when we see the truth of who we are, that we are undamaged and cannot be tainted by our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, that who we are, our innate essence, is always pure. I think that's what sets us free.
I felt really emotional listening to all that. I couldn't have read it without falling apart.
It is shocking. It's like a calm serial killer shocking.
You are listening to Rewilding Love with me, Angus Ross.
And me, Rohini Ross.
Rewilding Love is a podcast about relationships.
We believe that love never disappears completely in relationships. It can always be rewilded. Listen in as we guide a real couple back to their natural state of love.
Relax and enjoy the show.
Well, after last week's episode, this session is a meeting with the four of us, and we were really fortunate that we were able to set this time up where we could all meet together in person pretty quickly after what Mateo revealed to you.
Yeah, I think I've run out of ways to articulate how we never saw this coming, because I never saw this coming. And I can't even imagine how surprised Alicia is going to be. And I'm very curious to see how that information is going to affect her and what the response is going to be. So, yeah, we're really lucky that we were able to pull this together so quickly, especially as, Mateo, bless his heart, decided to sort of go AWOL for a little while. And now here we are again. I had, as I have said before, I thought the whole thing had gone up in smoke, but it's very much not the case. And we'll see where we go forward from here.
And even though Mateo went AWOL, we had been working with Alicia, and she was navigating all of this in a really mature way.
Yeah, she was the poster child for maturity as far as I was concerned in the way that she was handling it. She was feeling her feelings, and she was very philosophical about it, and she was never throughout it all, and we've said this before, she was never really feeling any sense of vitriol towards Mateo. Quite the opposite. She was really somehow able to see his psychological innocence within all of this, which is amazing.
And then one other thing to note is that before this meeting, they had been connecting, they had been getting along, so that had been happening, but Mateo just hadn't revealed these two important pieces of information, one about the abuse and two about the infidelity.
Yeah, and he obviously felt like we had created a safe container for him to share in that way, and this is going to be that moment. So with this next section that's coming up, I do seem to remember that we had to start around lunchtime because I think we had to accommodate the fact that they wanted to go to church that morning, and church is something I guess they do together. And I don't know if it was because of that in my remembrance of going to church in terms of why I decided to sort of kick things off on a more spiritual note. Maybe it was that. Maybe it just felt like it was appropriate at the time. It was obviously appropriate to me at the time. But I guess I went big picture, and I kind of liked the way that I decided to do that. It seemed like that was effective, and it was a good place to start.
Well, I seem to recall that we did have a conversation about this because we didn't want them to get caught up in the weeds. And so we thought it would be important to set a bigger picture context to help them be more philosophical, because we were going to be dealing with some pretty sensitive information. And so if their minds and hearts could be open, we felt that that would allow for a better meeting with all of us.
Well, you know, I have a memory like a goldfish, so I guess that's why I needed to find another reason.
So I could say, make anything up and you believe me.
I'll go with that, though. If you think that that higher power is part of our design, it's kind of like we come into this world and we have the gift of a conceptual mind and the ability to think and kind of figure out our environment with our five senses. We have that gift, if you like, and that's part of our design, but a bigger part of our design perhaps to consider is that our essential nature is made up of that consciousness, that intelligence behind life. And so at that level, if we consider that, you know, at that level there's no judgment because it's beyond the conceptual mind. It's beyond our ego, it's beyond all the stuff that we make up and store away. It's kind of like there's just no judgment there. There's no conflict, there's no difficulty. It's just all about creating balance and well-being. So I thought it would be nice to start there, just saying that out loud, because I feel like if we look in that direction, we're always going to get the answers that we need. And if we get a sense of that, we'll get less preoccupied with what comes out of the storage system, the supercomputer that's basically been storing away narratives from the moment we opened our eyes and our five senses started experiencing the world. But it's kind of like that's just stuff that we've made up along the way, you know, and it's very cool that we have that capacity. But it's kind of not, it's not the side on which our bread is buttered in a way, because the bigger picture is that intelligence. And that's kind of, for me, is where we get inspiration, where we get new ideas, where we get new thoughts. And for me, as I say, what I like about it in the context of a relationship with people who get into difficulty, they tend to look in the direction of the supercomputer, the conceptual mind, because that's the storage system of narratives. But beyond that, the bigger picture is kind of like, that's your essential nature. That's how you really glue together. That's how you connect, how we kind of all connect. But as a couple, it's really good to sort of know that that's always the default setting for us.
You did a really beautiful job here of pointing to the impersonal and really holding that big picture. And when I was listening to you during the session, this story came up in my mind that I thought would be really helpful for making what you were saying more tangible and sort of bringing more of the messiness of the human element to it, because sometimes it's hard for people to translate that big picture into, well, what does that look like in everyday life? So I give a very fresh and real example from everyday life.
Yes, you need a bit of human mess to amplify a point sometimes. Well, we all do, not you personally.
So this happened to me yesterday where, well, it was the day before. So there was yesterday, but the day before yesterday, our eldest daughter was not, she'd worked a really long day, and then there was a fire on Topanga Canyon, so it was shut, and she called us saying, traffic stop, what should I do? And she was really, in her conceptual mind, sped up, angry, frustrated, not feeling well, just wanted to get home, and she was probably like 5-10 minutes from home, but nothing was happening. And so I said to her, oh, well, that's fine. You know, this happens sometimes. They shut the canyon. Just go back and go up Old Topanga, go around Mulholland and come home that way. You'll probably get back that way if they've shut the canyon there. And so she did that, but I didn't know this, but they shut the canyon at Mulholland and PCH because of the fire. So not only did she go this other route, which everybody else was doing, so it was taking forever, but then by the time she got to Mulholland, they wouldn't let her in. So it took her about 3 hours before she got home. And then she called us when from Mulholland, realizing she wasn't going to get it, and she was just livid. She was just so angry. And the words that were coming out of her mouth was almost like I had purposely told her to go, you know, I purposely wanted it to go wrong for her, and I took it personally. I just felt hurt. My feelings got hurt, and I felt like, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just trying to help you. Why are you screaming at me? And so I got reactive with her. And then, I could see how I was just getting into my conceptual mind. So the next day, things have settled down. I thought, we'll go to lunch. We'll just kind of build rapport that way. So we went out to lunch. We had a really nice lunch. We didn't talk about anything that happened. And then when we got home, after being in a really nice feeling, she starts to talk about what happened yesterday, and she starts to kind of criticize how I showed up. And I took it personally again. And I went in, my feelings got hurt. I got into that, what Angus is talking about, the memory. And I said to her, I said, listen, I'm reactive right now, and I can't be in this conversation. But she didn't want me to leave the conversation because she felt like I was abandoning her if I left the conversation. And I said, the best that and then I felt hopeless. I felt down. I'm like, I think we need a mediator. Like, I don't think we can do this. And she's like, what do you do for a living? What are you saying? You need a mediator? Like, come on, this is crazy. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't know. I'm reactive. I can't help myself. It's like, I don't know what to do. I feel like I can't do this with you. And so I just got really low. I got really in a low mood. And I just knew, like, even though she wanted me to be there, I couldn't say anything. Because if I said anything, I knew it wasn't going to be good. And so I'm like, there's no point in this. So I said, I have to leave. So I went. We separated. She didn't like it, I'm sure, but we separated. And I was stirred up. I'm in this like, oh my God, maybe she's like got a diagnosed mental health issue. I can't help her. We're going to, I'm just like going down this rabbit hole. And so then I texted Angus, flurry of texts to him, and he's like, oh, just don't take it personally. That's what you said to me yesterday. I'm like, oh God, that's not helping me. Yeah. So then I just, did some emails. Someone else reached out to me about something. So I just took my mind off of it. And when I took my mind off of it, my conceptual mind just kind of relaxed. And as soon as it relaxes, we get more open to that deeper intelligence that's inside of us. Because as Angus said, it's part of us. It's who we are. And so it was probably 30 minutes later, not very long, and all of a sudden now my mind's open and I'm feeling warmth towards her. I'm feeling love towards her. I'm no longer feeling like I can't do it. I'm like, oh, I should just go talk to her. My head's going, no, it's just going to start it all up again. I'm like, no, I should just go talk to her. And so from that space, what, you're talking about, Angus, is terms of like being connected and open to God or the intelligence behind life. From that space, I went to her and I said, I'm willing to try again, if you're willing to try again. And so from that space, we had this very simple conversation where I was able to hear what it was that she was trying to say to me, which was that she wanted me to help her calm down. She was like so upset that she was reaching out for help. And when I got reactive, it was like throwing fuel on a fire, so she got more reactive. And she said, I understand that I need to get better at not, attacking, but can you understand that all I need at those times is help regulating, because I struggle with that. And when she said it that way, I'm like, oh yeah, of course I can do that. And I said, but what happens is, when you lead with the attack, I'm human. Sometimes my feelings get hurt. And if my feelings get hurt, I'm not going to be able to do that for you. And she's like, okay, I get that. And I can work on getting better at that. But if maybe when you first hear the sound of my voice and you recognize that I'm dysregulated, could you try to help me at that before I've even said anything? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And it reminded me when she was a baby, because she has a very sensitive nervous system, she would not sleep. She would not sleep. She would cry an awful lot. And so we would swaddle her and we would wrap her really tightly because it was soothing, and then we'd bounce her and she'd go to sleep. And I said, oh, I've got to try and swaddle you with words now. And she's like, yes, that's what I need. But I got there because I just was able to let go of all of the personal thinking that I had and just get back into my heart. And to me, being in my heart is equivalent to being connected with that deeper energy. To me, the feeling of love is one of the hallmarks of being in connection with that. And so I went from feeling like this is completely beyond my pay grade. I don't care what I do for a living. I can't do this with my own daughter. I said, that's why surgeons don't operate on their family members. It's like, I can't do it with you. But I went from there, the depths of like, this is just not ever going to work, to like, oh, having a really straightforward conversation where we could both acknowledge our limitations and recognize how we could both do our best to be better, but where it felt good to both of us. And to me, that's the difference between trying to figure something out from the conceptual mind where my feelings are hurt, I'm taking it personally, I'm judging her, to letting all of that go, like it just didn't even exist anymore, to seeing like, I love her, how are we going to work this out? And just having an open mind.
So what I really love about how we kick things off here is that I guess you would anticipate, based on what happened on the previous recording, that we were going to come in and like, oh, there's this big dark secret, and it's going to be a case of like, how quickly are you going to be able to get this off your chest, Mateo? Because Alicia is sitting there with bated breath, and we go in a whole different direction, and we start off all guns blazing on the teaching front, being very philosophical, me pointing to the impersonal, and then you giving this beautiful story about the impersonal and the value of looking in that direction. And I just think that that's a great way to really anchor that in and make that be a big part of this experience. It has to be fundamental in this experience of going through an intensive for a couple to really get on that table, on that page. Page?
Get on what table? Operating table?
I don't know why I said table. But you know what I mean.
Now I do.
And the other thing that I think is worth mentioning here is that in us approaching it this way, I think gave them plenty of room to get their mind settled so that they could share whatever they needed to share from a mindset that was comfortable and open.
And now we'll hear from Mateo.
So, I think we're really here because, like, I spoke to Angus, and we've been separated now for like two months, 2.5 months, and started to understand some things about myself, and it's taken some other experiences as well to understand that, but I came to the conclusion that I never really gave this relationship the proper like foundation to build on, because I wasn't like 100% honest with what had occurred with me in life, and I'm not sure if I ever really wanted to share it, but I also didn't think that it was like a proper time to share it, and also it's just difficult to talk about, but yeah, when I was younger, I was sexually abused by a kid that was 2 years older than me, and it went on for a while. But it created this like doubt in my mind of who I am, this shame, there's so many just like confusion, so much different stuff that went on, that I never was fully comfortable with who I was and like telling people anything, and it really prevented though like this relationship from flourishing, because she didn't have that understanding of like what I had gone through, and she's seeing some guy that comes home and seems angry and disconnected, and is just thinking and like still carrying all that weight all these years, and it was really hard for me to struggle with being in this relationship, and it caused so much other different stuff like within me, but when we did separate, I did have relationships with other people, not emotionally but just like physically, just like learning about myself, and that's not something that I ever wanted to do, but I think through it all I've kind of learn that I'm okay to like live with who I am, and I guess just want her to be able to understand who I am, and to be able to live with some of the things that I've done, you know. And I don't know, it's really hard. Like, it's liberating telling Angus, like, he's the only person I've ever told, but it definitely felt like a weight off my chest. But now it's like, this other thing is like, great, okay, you know what, you could have shared that with her without doing all that stuff. But I don't know, I didn't know how it would be received. I thought I could just deal with it, but it's just some things that you should be open and honest about. And I regret, you know, everything that's happened the past 2.5 months, except for finally, you know, being on a pretty decent foot. But I don't know where to go from here with her and I. I mean, I know what I want, but, you know, I just, you know, it's for her to forgive now, like, what I've done since then. But just hopefully knowing that, you know, the things that I did do, you know, came from like a really hurtful place within me. And, you know, I mean, and she knows I've dealt with, you know, like, thoughts of suicide for like the longest time ever, and I definitely think that was a big proponent of all those feelings. But this is something I should have probably shared earlier. Just didn't know how to. I feel so shameful for now what I have done, like, put, you know, the sexual abuse behind me. But now it's like, you know, I fucked up the last 2 months, and I did it out of trying to have more understanding for myself, and, you know, confusion about the relationship, whether it was going to work, whether it wasn't. But then, you know, the realization was like, I didn't give it the right place and the right foundation again to build a, you know, a good relationship of openness, honesty, understanding, and I just totally messed that up.
At this point, Mateo isn't quite ready to address Alicia directly, so he's talking to you and I at this point in time, and we just really allow the conversation to continue and have Alicia respond.
I'm sorry that was your experience, because that's not cool. But as you probably imagined, I've run every scenario in my head, and I do forgive you, because I know that the shitstorm that you were going through probably wasn't fun to go through. But I can forgive you for, like, all of it, just leaving the past in the past. Like, we're all human, we make mistakes.
I just never wanted to hurt you, you know, and, like, you know, when we separated, everything I knew would hurt you, but I didn't think it was anything compared to, like, what I was hurting inside. But, like, right now, I just wish I could have gone back in time and just been honest so that none of this ever happened, you know. And I just don't want it to, like, I was really afraid for it to, like, taint our relationship moving forward.
I think it would have given me more understanding.
I know, I just didn't understand myself. You know, like, just didn't, I didn't know. I didn't know anything.
Weeks ago, before I did start going to church and everything, I said it to you, said it to Lacey. If he hooks up with anybody else, like, I'm done forever. I don't care. Going through church, I really found things I never even thought I knew about myself, where I gained patience, and I've gained compassion, and I've gained a lot of understanding. I have a lot of work to do. But I know it's something that you and I spoke about, that I knew that this wasn't him, like, everything that was going on. And I gained an understanding for the chaos and your struggle to understand that there was something bigger happening. that you, I don't think, even thought, like, knew about. Like, I thought it was going to take him a year to have some sort of a come to Jesus moment or some sort of a realization. As I said, I put it already in my head, and I forgave it weeks ago, because it's not a burden I want to bear of, like, being upset. But I've also, like, told you, like, I've tried to hate you. I've wanted to hate you, and I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm just really sorry. I mean, I don't even know if sorry is, like, a strong enough word. Like, just regret. And it's just, like, another regret I'm gonna have to live with, you know, for the rest of my life. And it's just, like, fuck, that weight alone is, too, it's just, like, I'm just kind of tired of being in that bubble of, you know, just shame and, like, like, who am I? It's just really, I don't know.
You may have done things to me to hurt me, but I can recognize that what you feel from it versus being on the receiving end is probably 100 times worse.
The being with other people, being separated, hurts me more than, like, everything that I shared about, like, my childhood. Like, that's nothing compared to, like, what I'm feeling. I feel so dirty and, like, bad, and it's a lot of shame, and, you know, I just, like I said, I wish I just could go back and be honest with you then about everything, so I would never feel uncomfortable in our relationship to, you know, just, that didn't allow me to just be present, you know, and it just took a while for me to get there, to, like figure out, like, hey man, this is something you've been carrying around forever, and it's really, like, fucking you up, and, you know, and it's ruining relationships for you, and you're ruining yourself. Like, when I say, like, I felt like I was, like, slowly dying, like, that was real. Like, I really felt like I was dying every day. And yeah, like, our relationship, whatever, but I think it had to do more, you know, it wasn't the relationship that was killing me. It was, like, not having a partner that I had shared everything with, so they could understand where I'm coming from, and I don't know. It was really bizarre for me, and to be there for you emotionally when you needed, and you wanting me there every day, and me not being able to have the same or feel that way because there was, like, this one thing that I hadn't shared, but it was, like, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it was literally everything.
Yeah. That's the burden of a secret that's toxic.
Like, I wish I could go back and not do the things I did in the past 2 months, but
Yeah.
if it gives me any hope that, like, it's what led me to, you know, want to have this level of honesty with a partner, like, fuck, I wish I could have done it a different way, but I didn't. So I don't know what it means for the future. But I do hope that, like, we can keep going. Like, I've been having nothing but fun with you, like, the past couple days and weeks, and I just,
How can I guarantee that this is not something that's going to happen again? That one day there's an atomic bomb that goes off and I'm blindsided again? Because what I went through, and I understand all your feelings and what you've done, your journey, and I get it. But I also had feelings that got destroyed.
Yeah. Just being able to be honest with you, and honest with myself. I mean, it doesn't seem like much now because it's out in the open, but fuck, this thing has kept me up at nights. Like, it's kept me away from, like, doing things, from being happy on, like, holidays, like,
Closing off
my whole life. Not just, like, you and I, but, like, dude, like, forever. it like stole a piece of my childhood, like my innocence, and it was just so, it was really rough. And then I just like, that like feeling of acceptance of like what happened and not addressing it just allowed me to like get in different relationships where it wasn't like so hardcore, but like it was pretty hardcore too, and it was just bad, and I think you kind of see it like with some of my friendships where you just let people like run over me, and it's just like it became a standard in my life. It's just like, yeah, dude, that's what you got to do to be accepted. It's like you just got to be willing to be abused, like physically or mentally, just like whatever, and sometimes within our own relationship, when it got like heavy, like I felt that same burden in our relationship, and it really, like, that's when I started like detaching. I was like, dude, this is like the same level of abuse that I'm going through with like these other people, but like, I'm married to this person, and like there was like a level of uncertainty there too that was like, dude, are you just like addicted to these abusive relationships? Like, what's going on?
But it did feel like there was something wrong with me when you decided to leave. And then going through the whole like reflection and just being alone and being by yourself and trying to find like who you are and be strong through this process, is when I just finally started seeing like I'm not this monster. I'm not abusive. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not a just like everything that was said about me, like that I blow up about everything and this and that. It's like, no, I actually found like who I truly am, and I am a very, very calm person, but I'm also hyper, and I like to have fun, and I like to be full of life and feed off of people's energies, and I'm also human to go through the motions of like shit sucks at work and you want to go home to your safe space and just like divulge everything and just be like, whoa, this happened, just to like let it go and let off your chest. But that's who I've always been, because I can't keep things bottled up inside. So a lot of what has transpired was me realizing that like I'm not made out to be who I was, and then I finally gained the confidence in like not caring whether or not people thought that of me. Like some of your friends. Like, I don't care if they think I'm dramatic or that I blow up. It's like, this is who I am. And I'm confident in who I am. And that was one of the biggest realizations that I came to terms with. Because for the first 3-4 weeks, I mean, I was just like, everything's wrong with me. I mean, I'd catch myself sobbing on the bathroom floor, like hysterical. But I channeled it in very different ways. And I noticed I was going into the rabbit hole of depression at one point. Like, I scared myself enough to be like, you need to get out of bed. And so I transformed by going and working out every single day at 5 a.m. And that started building endorphins and building confidence and building a lot of, like, less holding on to what other people say or do or think, because I don't care. And one of the things was during the earthquake, I remember texting my 2 best friends and being like, oh my God, is there an earthquake? And I was like, oh my God, I'm being so dramatic. Like I thought of you in that sense. I was like, God would think I'm being dramatic. And it's like, oh no, there was an earthquake that hit you. Like, you're not a dramatic person. You sometimes take drama in things, but I think with gaining all of that confidence and understanding of who you are and the compassion that you have within, I forgave you a long time ago.
And you are dramatic, like super dramatic.
Chicken Little.
But I married you because I'm okay with you. It was me that I wasn't okay with. And it's taken 30 years, well, not 30 years, what is it, like 22 years to figure all this out. And it's been hard, and I'm sorry I put that stuff on you. Get me wrong, you batshit crazy sometimes, but I didn't give you the space to be able to be batshit crazy and it be okay, because I was so just like caught up in my own shit, and Yeah, I don't want you to change from who you are at all. Anything, I want you to just be yourself and just allow me to love you like I know that I can. It's just I never gave the opportunity just because, again, it was just, I had a different side of me. I never wanted my worlds to collide. You know, I had a secret life that I was living, and I didn't want anyone to know about it. But that's not a relationship. You're supposed to know everything about your partner, and that's where I really fucked up too.
Do you think by disclosing everything now, like, you can be open to things, like be open to open heart and love and
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you ask, like, how do you know this isn't gonna happen again? It's like, well, I've never been honest with someone before, like, about this. Like, I've been countless therapists. My parents sent me to anger management, like, all this crazy shit, and no one knows anything. No one does. And Angus was literally the first person I've ever told in my entire life. And I'm hoping that for me was like, that realization of, like, when everything happened was kind of like rock bottom, and I'm hopeful that it's like a turning of a corner for myself and my own being. I'm not sure that I want to share it with everyone. You know, I'm not just gonna call all my friends and be like, hey, by the way, like, you know, this happened. Like, no, but
you don't have to
for
do
my
that.
partner to know, you know, where I come from and stuff. Like, I think that's all I really want. I think that's what people really want, is just a partner that has their trust and they can have their trust. And I never let myself get there, and that was the first mistake.
Can't say I understand that what you went through, because I don't think anybody should have to deal with that. But I understand how it molded you and affected you,
Yeah.
and I'm very empathetic towards it.
Yeah, it just sucks.
Yeah. In regards to the infidelity, who does know?
Who does know about the infidelity?
Mm-hmm.
John and Matt know. But again, for me, it was never an emotional connection with anyone. It was just a physical thing, and it was something that I was learning. It wasn't like your standard, like, yeah, it wasn't anything normal. Make it short.
I've been through a lot of therapy in the last year to understand enough that people go through things and people make mistakes. And I think I'm not above anybody not to, like, forgive things. So I'm not saying that I'm not going to forgive you for any of this, or, like...
I just really hope you can forgive me and not hold it against me
Do you understand
at
how
any
much
points.
damage that's going to do to me to hold on to it and hurt by it? Like, I'm not... It's called self-care and self-love. Like, I can't hold on to something like that. I held on too long with, like, all of, like, thinking everything was wrong with me, and that's why you left. And being upset with you, and that's why I told you, like, I tried to hate you. I tried so badly, because then, like, if I can hate him, then I can shut the door and never care. But my heart never let me do that. And it's just because I had to, like, let go of all those burdens. And so, like, don't want to think about your thing ever again. Honest to God, I don't. I do believe in the spiritual guidance, that internal navigation system. And that's all told me. You let it go, and you let, for your own sanity, your own heart, and your own liberating feelings to live life. Like, I don't want to look at you that way. I mean, it sucks to even have you admit it, because I even put it in my head already. But like I told you before, I was like, I don't think you're a bad person, and I don't think that things are unforgivable. And I'm willing to give you a chance if you
Show up.
yeah, and rebuild what we had, and the trust. And
I can try to make it better than ever. Like, that's all I can do. I can't tell you that I'm going to text you every 5 minutes, but I'd definitely be honest with you about everything, and hopefully not be in such a negative space, or shut off when you're trying to talk to me because I'm so tired for the day, and then all this other shit. Like, that's all I can, really give to you is coming in actually with an open mind, knowing that everything's on the table that I can do.
Okay.
I was really picturing her, like, trying to kill me at some point today.
I think you forget who I am. I think that you forget that I do have a very kind heart, and I've always been so forgiving of you.
I don't think there's really that much for us to say at this point after listening to that, because I feel like really all that we were doing, well, I say all that we were doing, I think we were doing a lot in this respect, but we created a very safe container for them to be able to share authentically and openly with one another. For me, that was profound. So I think that it's important for us to say how we feel like we set up a safe container, and that was very apparent by how open and vulnerable they both were in a situation that was probably very uncomfortable for both of them.
Yeah, I think they did a really beautiful job of sharing together, and Mateo was able to speak to Alicia directly as they had their interaction.
Yeah, and neither of them were holding back.
We went to church today, and before going to church, like, even when I was a kid, it was like, you go to church, you might hear a good message or whatever, but I never had a connection with, like, this, like, God, right? This like corporate God that they, create this entity of Christianity or Catholicism. But today, like, after talking to you, and it was like the first time I'd been to church, like, everything started to feel warm and, like, real, and I gave it an opportunity, and it was really bizarre for me. Like, I don't try to look it, but, like, there's so much hate that's just in me. I try to be the nicest person, but there's just so much hate. And it stems from, what I went through with, being abused, and, like, my dad leaving super early. Like, it's just so much hate, and I'm just hoping that, like, with everything on the table and being able to express, like, how I feel openly and not feeling this weight of, did I do something wrong, sort of thing. I'm hoping that it does, open up our relationship to something, like, much better that, we both desired in a relationship and in a marriage, but I can't say that you're 100% at fault, because, you went crazy, but me not being honest with you is probably what drove you to some out, whatever, freakouts or whatever it may have been. Like, I know that. And I reflected on that and realized, like, yeah, you know what, you weren't the one that went crazy, but you also didn't, like, allow the other person to be sane at the same time. So I do see that.
Thank you. Because I've said this to you before. I don't know if it resonated, but people react to the ways that they're treated.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when I'd have blow-ups, like, even in front of your friends, it's like, oh my God, they're picking on me, and I'm telling you I'm sensitive and no one's listening to me, so now I'm going to snap at you. I'm going to snap at everybody here because I'm like, I don't want to be picked on, and that was my right. And is it the right way? No. And there's, even going into this, like, I did find my faith with everything and the inner guidance of that, and I've prayed the day that you came over and you were chanting an annulment and chanting a divorce and how you wanted us to be done, and you were shockingly, like, walked away with the fact that I was so calm. It was like, because I have prayed to just be like, just take things as an adult and not be reactive. And it's like the same thing that's happening today. Like, you're shocked with my behaviors, but this is who I am. You just got to be honest and open with me.
Yeah. It is shocking. It's like a calm serial killer shocking.
Little do you know.
Then we got off on Bundy Street, and I was like, oh,
Foreboding.
Next thing you know, it's gonna be on like Manson Drive or something.
That's right. We're in the Manson suite today.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. I'm really happy how it's all being taken in, and I'm not going to take this for granted either. I want you to know that this wasn't like I'm just going to tell her everything so she knows why I was an asshole. Like, no, it's like I really want a family. I want, a life with you. And this is the only way to do it, is to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there's a coincidence in the fact that he's sharing about how his experience in church is having him experience, I guess, the intelligence behind life, God, in a whole new way. Because I think that, I want to conclude that going through this experience, he's had a shift in consciousness. I'm sure our consciousness shifts and fluctuates, but I think once something is seen, it can't be unseen. So he's seen something on a fairly deep level. And I think that now that's opened him up. And I think that unburdening himself with this dark secret that this is how he's viewed it for all these years, has given him more of an opening, more room for him to experience love and all those good qualities that come with looking in the direction of truth and honesty, and the impersonal. And I think that is borne out by his experience in church this morning, or that morning, that he's now able to appreciate the impersonal so much more. And I think that he's opening up exponentially on that front.
Yeah, it makes me feel very hopeful for the relationship, because by carrying that secret and feeling the weight of all of that shame, he wasn't open-hearted. And as you say, with him being able to unburden himself, that allowed himself to open his heart and to be better able to feel the love that's inside of him. That experience he had in church was not something going into him from church. That was him having an experience of his innate state, his true nature. And so he's more open to that now.
Yeah, and I think that part of the condition of holding a secret in that way, the defense mechanism to that is just this state of judgment that probably has been perpetual for him for many years. And as that judgment dissipates, as we say, there's much more room for love to take its place.
This is a new foundation, but we really are committed to supporting you with integrating that new foundation and having it get momentum and traction in your lives going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what does that look like, though? Because, I said everything that, went on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to really relive everything.
No.
I just want to build on, new foundation, right?
Yeah.
So, work on stuff moving forward. I don't really want to relive
that's
anything.
a good point. That's a really good point, because that would be re-traumatizing and not healthy.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to say out loud here and have that kind of as an understood. It's good to be honest, but it doesn't need to be rehashed. So it's I think that, and I was going to ask you as well if there was any additional questions that either one of you had for each other for today before we finish up, just so that this is kind of let's get everything out on the table and just really sort of start from a clean slate. But your instinct's really healthy, especially with traumatic experiences. It's not helpful to go back into the reliving or the rehashing. What's going to be most helpful for you now is to not carry the burden and the weight of the secret and withholding. And that's clear.
But now she has a secret that she's going to be holding back from her friends or, whoever. I don't want that either. I know what that burden is like, and
But it's not my secret. It's It's not my burden, it's not my secret.
But me having been with, like, that's something that you're with now, and I don't mind if you tell people, like, yeah, you know what, he and I were separated, yeah, he did some stuff. Like, I can't have you, though, going through that.
It's my choice to share what I want.
I know, but I also know what it's like to hold something in.
Yeah, but I've always said to you, you are my best friend. You are the one that I share everything with. I don't care to share everything else with anybody else. So, I'm not going to go shout from the rooftops like, oh, that you cheated on me. Like, no.
Okay.
I think you've said everything that you needed to say, and that I know enough to know enough. And that's it. I don't want to go back into the past. I don't want to live there. I want to live forward in the future. And I recognize that you made a mistake.
Me too.
And I'm big enough or adult enough maybe, to understand that was a mistake and move forward from it in the hopes that this is never to transpire again.
When I first heard him talk about the need for there not to be any rehashing about what had happened, there was a part of me thinking, oh, he's just trying to sort of give himself an easy life. But in actual fact, as he continued to articulate his concerns, it was evident to me that actually there was some wisdom in that, what he was saying. And I think you picked up on that. And what you shared, I thought was really valuable about how it's important to reboot here and move forward.
Yeah, and in this next segment, you do address how rehashing can kind of come up when we get into a low mood.
This has been quite a seismic eruption, let's say, that there will be some aftershocks that, both of you at points will get into probably a low mood, a low state of mind, and you'll probably, feel, you might even want to speak from that place, but it's kind of like there is an opportunity, and we'll talk about this, when we do one-on-ones, it's just to not take that personally, because it's just our state of mind is dipped for whatever reason. And that, eventually we will start to get an understanding of that's all that's going on, and we will now be led by, this new truth that has surfaced. It's like, I love this idea of foundations, because it's almost like you've retrofitted foundations into a relationship that was built on, I guess, without that level of truth. You could say those foundations were pretty unstable, but now you've kind of like put in really stable foundations to move forward. It's kind of like you look in that direction and you don't take the illusionist of the conceptual mind so seriously when that crops up, which is when we get caught up. We all get caught up. Rohini and I get caught up. Probably got caught up this morning for a little bit, I don't know. But it's like we don't take it personally. It doesn't need to be something that festers or becomes a problem. But there will be, don't expect, like, you'll have those moments where you get caught up.
What does that look like, getting caught up?
Getting caught up is like where we, for whatever reason, we find ourselves in a low mood, and then we go looking for a fall guy. We go looking for someone to pin it on. And then it's an opportunity for us to not take that seriously. It's just a low mood looking for a fall guy, a low mood looking to articulate itself.
Yeah.
It's not who either of you are. It's not who we are. Who we are is a design that's created in, I guess I could get religious here and say in the form of God, but in a sense it's kind of like you could use those words. It's that consciousness. We're part of that design. We're all a part of that design, and that is our essential nature, one of balance, harmony, and innate well-being. And we look to that. We don't look to what we stored away in our supercomputer.
I don't think we can ever teach or share too much about low moods because they're so impactful on relationships, or they can be so impactful on relationships. But when we have an understanding about how our perspective shifts when we're in a low mood, it's a tremendous game changer for relationships. And I can really hear how Mateo is concerned about what might show up when Alicia is in a low mood. But if he can really grasp and understand that that's just what happens to human beings, and he doesn't need to take it personally, it doesn't mean anything about him, it's just a reflection of her state of mind, it'll be so much easier for him to write that out. And when it does get to him, when he does take it personally, if he can also understand that it's not about her, he's just experiencing his own judgments against himself, and that he doesn't need to take those seriously either, that's another game changer. And as painful as this learning experience has been for both of you, it's from a neutral standpoint, it's all part of moving towards health and growth. That how the relationship was functioning previously, it couldn't grow any more than that because of the secret that was being held. Because in order to grow, that would have to be revealed. And you weren't ready for that. It was too scary, understandable, given the enormity of how that felt inside of you, that it just didn't look possible to do that. But through this whole experience, that growth has been happening. And what Angus is saying about that foundation being there now, like, to me, this is the unfolding of the learning. And as painful as it is to learn this way, what's important is the learning. What's important is that you are freed up inside in a way that you haven't been ever since that happened to you. Right? That you feel that. And that what I also hear is that you couldn't open your heart. You know, you're having to hold it together. You couldn't be vulnerable in ways. And so now, just, you feeling softer and more warm in church this morning, to me is reflective of you feeling like that exhale, and that you can be open again, and that you can learn to trust, that you can learn that you can be safe in relationship, and that relationship would look very scary from the foundation that you were coming at it from. But now there's the opportunity to really experience something new and different and fresh. And you can do that with someone who clearly cares a great deal about you and is wanting to learn and grow too. And that, that's really what you both want. But with that extra internal space, you're going to have the capacity to learn in a way that you couldn't learn before. And that's going to support the relationship in, rather than having sort of that negative spiral that was going on before, where you would get really reactive and you would be cut off. It's like, with that space, you get to create something that's positively reinforcing. And yes, she's going to still have her personality traits. You're going to still have yours. You might need a little quieter than she needs it, but it won't be the extreme polarization that you guys were going through. It'll be easier to navigate those differences and to not take them personally. In our work with couples, we often see when they perceive that they're in relationship crisis, it's actually really an opportunity for healing and growth that shows up in that packaging. And sometimes couples can think that it means that the relationship is over, that it's time to move on. And that can be the case at times. But no matter what, whether a relationship stays together or whether a couple decides to separate, there's always learning and growth available during those times.
And the fact is, what are we here for as human beings, spiritual beings having this human experience, if not to grow and learn? And I guess relationships is probably going to be one of the greatest areas for growth and learning.
You should feel safe, and that you should feel that I'm going to be faithful to you. I don't ever want to go through this again. And I want to be the best partner to you that you can get, and I believe I have it within me and within us to provide that environment for each other. I really hope that we can just grow from this and not look back and just forward.
The other thing that's so cool about this is that it frees up so much creative bandwidth for you as an individual and you two as a couple. Because so
Feel
much,
it.
yeah.
I do feel it. I'm just kind of blown away still. Like I thought I was gonna take this one to the grave with me.
That piece about self-forgiveness is key. You know, like that's something that you get to experience for yourself. And Angus is going to support you with that. That's available for you, because I know you're unburdened, but there's still some burden now that this has been shared. But really, there's a clean slate available. There really is a clean slate available where it's fresh, and you don't have to hold on to anything, and you don't have to feel bad about your behavior. I'm not condoning, but I know how unhealthy it is to have to live in the experience of holding on to this. And just as she's not going to hold on to it and she's going to set herself free, that's available for you too.
Yeah, trying.
Yeah, and it's it's just one of those things where you get to lay the burden down. But you can't force it, you can't make yourself, it will just be revealed to you that that's possible and available to you. Refreshed and renewed.
That's new too.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing that occurs to me to say, and maybe this is the intelligence working through you guys too, is that there's that old adage, the truth will always find a way. I don't know where that comes from. It's probably biblical, I don't know. But in a sense, it's kind of like you could say that all of this is a blessing, however painful and uncomfortable it was to go through the separation. This allowed you to get to this point where you're able to unburden yourself and finally release this story that has really been bothering you for a long, long time and has probably been very toxic for you to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's out in the open. That has to be, again, I say and reiterate, that gives you so much free bandwidth now. It's been occupied for a long time.
I hope so. I mean, I know it's felt better since we talked.
The adage is, in fact, the truth will set you free. And it is biblical. And I'm pretty sure that this is what Jesus said to the disciples. I don't know which particular gospel it would be documented in, but I can say that now with certainty. It is something that Jesus said to his disciples. I don't know. I don't know if I'm looking for a pat on the back as far as that's concerned.
Well done.
Well, thank you.
And I think it was in, is John a gospel?
John is a gospel.
I think it's in the gospel according to John.
Often.
Is that how you say it?
Yes, I think John is perhaps most people's favourite gospel, if memory serves me correct.
Is there a favourite gospel?
I think so. I think John. I did religious knowledge. I got religious knowledge O level at school, so I think I can vaguely remember.
Well, back to the truth shall set you free. That to me points to that capacity when we let go of judgment and when we see the truth of who we are, that we are undamaged and cannot be tainted by our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, that who we are, our innate essence, is always pure. I think that's what sets us free. And just when we think we're in the home straight, Mateo's never one to disappoint with a curveball.
He's not.
I think that we should still spend some time apart, but I want to take you on dates and stuff. Should get back to that.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's our journey. We'll have to figure it out.
How do you feel? Are you sad right now? You seem like you kind of want to cry.
No, I'm not sad. I'm more I feel freed in the sense of you came out and opened up, because for a long time I thought it was me.
So you're feeling some relief. Yeah.
Yeah, that I'm not this terrible person in your life.
No. I don't think someone would be fighting to get a terrible person back in their life. You know?
And I'm not gonna lie, like, I have a million questions, but for my own mental sanity, I don't even want to ask any of them. Like, I don't want to know. But
Thank you.
my human nature does have that. But to protect myself, like, I don't want to.
You said you think it would be good to spend more time apart. I'm curious what your thoughts are around all of that.
I mean, I know that she's going to have a lot of questions, and I'm not sure that being together in the same household right now when you may be having these questions, like, to just, you know, I don't know. For me, it's kind of like maybe some time to heal for that is due. Like,
I think, and you know what I would say, like, that's something to really check out, because you're kind of assuming, and that might be absolutely accurate.
Right.
But I want to, like, I don't want to make an assumption. So what are your thoughts about all that?
I mean, if that's what you want to do to make yourself feel comfortable, then that's your choice. Like I said, for my own mental sanity, my own heart, for me, for my own self-care, I can't go there. Because that hurts.
You don't want to be.
You're describing the hurt, though, that, like, I've been through, and I don't want you holding on to that.
But that's what I'm saying, like, I don't want to address it or, like, talk about it or have it come to fruition and, like, be this energy within our relationship. Like, that's past. I want to be away from all that. Like, I'm not going to ask you questions. I don't want to know anymore.
Okay. It just, again, I know what it's like to fucking, how do you put it, like, be dying within yourself, and I don't want that for you.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you saying it's like that.
No, I don't think it is. I think, like I said weeks ago, I put it into my head that you've already done this and spoke with God a lot and prayed about it and gave up that burden because I don't want to feel that pain, and so I have to forgive it, and I'm fine to walk and move on from it. And like I said, I'm not going to ask you about it. I'm not going to bring you up because it also hurts me. So in order to take care of myself, I'm telling you very point blank, like, shutting the book on that story and don't want to talk about it again.
But you're not feeling like it's a burden to do that.
Mm-mm.
Right? You're not feeling like you're holding on. You're feeling like the healthy thing for me to do is, like, I have the information, but I'm not going to dwell on it because that's not healthy. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I was dwelling on it in moments because I don't know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think hearing the truth and just having the knowledge of it, I'm just like, all right, got it, understand it, move on from it.
Okay.
Because I'm going to take care of myself in this situation also, and that's not going to help me. It's going to hurt me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so on your end, I want to just, have a little back and forth here. Do you want space and time? Like, what are you feeling like you need now that he's, shared what was troubling him and what's happened?
I don't, because I don't believe that helps a relationship in a marriage. I think too much space creates too much distance, and I can't see how it would work that way, but I don't know.
Okay, so you're saying that if he needs some space, you understand that and you respect that.
Yes.
But for you, you're saying, like, are you saying that you don't need it and you actually like him to come home? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd like him to come home, but if he needs more time, you will...
Yep, understand and be
all right.
patient.
So given what she said, what is it that you need then?
I need a little bit of space, but I want to, like, take her out and drop her off at home, have her be happy, and then, in due time, like, come home to a happy household, and, I just...
What's your time frame on that?
What's my time frame?
Like, how long do you think you need more space? And
I'd say less than a month. I just want to, like, be able to take you out, drop you off at home happy, and, go out to some fun meals or do something and have a good time and just kind of get in that rhythm, and yeah, I know to move back, there's going to be the nights where, you want to talk and about like work like heavily or whatever, and I just kind of want to ease into, enjoying each other's company, and then, being in a full-blown marriage again where, we're just 24/7. I feel like I want to get to the happy places first with us, and I think we've been doing a pretty good job of that.
Yeah.
So I feel like that it's been making me feel really comfortable. I've enjoyed our time, and I want nothing but, every day to be like that. I know that it's not really true because I don't trust my kids when we have like jobs and stuff, but I do think that I want to get there sooner than later. That's for sure.
I remember in the session that I had a pretty strong internal reaction to this, and I felt it was a huge red flag, and I really couldn't believe my ears when he said this.
Yeah, I think that I remember feeling, I felt disappointed because I didn't get, my typical Hollywood ending. We're stretching this out here. Another twist and another turn that was not anticipated. But upon reflection, this is a guy who does risk analysis for a living. And I think that in his mind, and I'm sure I thought this at the time, that on one hand, I thought this at the time, that he is perhaps anticipating that Alicia is perhaps not realistic when she says that she's going to move on, that she's got such a inquiring and inquisitive mind that she's going to want to know what happened and might not be able to leave that alone. So I think he's probably thinking, yeah, maybe I'll just hold back before I really move in. Everything's been ticking along so beautifully in terms of us going on dates and having dinner and all the rest of it. Let's continue this for a little bit more just to be sure that things aren't going to unfold in another way and go in another direction, go pear-shaped, as they say.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I just didn't get it at the time.
Yeah.
All of that allows you to blossom and thrive and really live a full life. Like, that's the fresh start.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Like that's the goal of all this,
Yeah.
To be able to just breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not feel constricted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was giving you like the straitjacket analogy, that's how I feel when I came home. Like, yeah, you played some part, but a lot of it was what I placed on myself. So I feel liberated, and I have been feeling better, but I can only imagine that it just gets better.
That's right.
So.
Yeah. And there's going to be, emotions go up and down. So there's going to be the dips and the bumps that come. And that's why having Angus support you as you navigate this, especially over the next month as you're getting ready to come back together, I think will be really, really helpful.
Yeah, I think so too.
And with this understanding, the bumps will become less and less, is my belief anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you'll be looking in a different direction.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I always get glimpses of like, oh, going positive, and then it's just like, wait a minute, this is who you are. Turn around.
Yeah. Right. The habit.
Yeah,
the habit.
It was.
They're just old. This is an old habitual pattern of thinking. So in terms of the biology, you've got those old neural pathways that that can have the tendency to kick in, and that's what I mean by the bumps. Eventually, you'll look in a different direction, develop new neural pathways.
Yeah.
And things will look significantly different.
And those new neural pathways are based on your innate state. The old way of going negative is actually conditioned. It's not your natural state. So you learned a way to survive. And it feels normal, but it's actually not natural. So what Angus is talking about is that you get to get back those neural pathways that are the natural way. Naturally optimistic, naturally open-hearted, open-minded, naturally spacious. because you're not having to protect yourself in the way that you have been all this time.
Yeah.
I came out with this metaphor this morning. Where, you know, where you go on Netflix, if you're on your laptop and you want to go back or find a scene, and you scroll the cursor, and as you scroll back, you see all the frames, and then when you stop the frame gets bigger. It's kind of like, I feel like when we get into a low mood, that's what our conceptual mind is trying to do. It's trying to match up a frame with that feeling. So the opportunity is just to not take that frame seriously, get a sense like I'm in a low mood, and the frame that I want to like home in on is probably going to not be
the frame that's getting bigger.
The frame that's getting bigger is not where I want to be going.
Yeah.
It's just to get to mistrust that, and then you'll always come back to your essential nature, which is one of well-being. The frame will then line up with a picture of, I don't know, a vista of beauty and far hilltops and sunshine, etc. But it's kind of like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like learning how to mistrust those little bumps that are going to crop up. You're going to get into a low mood. It's inevitable, and there'll be there'll be a corresponding frame. It's just don't take it seriously. And that's really, for me, that's the leverage point in relationship.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier.
It makes it so much easier.
When we don't take ourselves too seriously, when we're not in a good state of mind. And we don't take the other person that seriously when they're not in a good state of mind. I mean, just that in and itself makes it easier.
Yeah.
It's not personal.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Awesome.
That's great.
We should let you go and enjoy your day.
Yeah.
It's quite funny to realise that that's the genesis point of my Netflix metaphor, and then all the mileage that I've got out of that metaphor since. I didn't realise that was the day that I thought of it. That's quite funny.
I think you probably use that metaphor in every intensive we do.
I think I do. Well, I do that as illustration, which unfortunately I can't do in a podcast format. But it's very much a part of that illustration about how I define this understanding. And so how interesting that there was the day that it came into being. But it's been quite the journey with these two, and I'm really proud of all that they've seen and how far that they've come and all that they've been willing to do. And this day, above all others, has been one where they've really both been able to wear their heart on their sleeve and show up in a very vulnerable and open way. And the fruits of that are there to be seen or heard, as the case may be.
Well, we won't draw this out any longer. We will let you know how things work out. We're going to just summarize the final sessions. After this session with the four of us, there were a few bumps in the road. One on the bigger side, shall we say, where it was taking Mateo longer to move in than the month that he stated in the meeting, and Alicia got pretty upset around that. And so that seemed to prove Mateo's concern that it wasn't going to work out for them to move back in together because of her temper. But with support, they were able to see that their behavior was a reflection of them getting caught up and being in a low mood and blowing things out of proportion. And with a little bit of extra time, they were able to settle and realize that they did want to be together. So, Angus, you are getting your sentimental ending.
That's important to me.
And in terms of our meetings with them, we supported them through that period of time. And we had a follow-up session after they'd been living back together for a little while just to see how things were going. And that was our final formal session with them, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
And so in that final session, rather than sort of playing the segments, I just took a few quotes that I thought were indicative of how things were going after they moved back in. Can I share those?
Yeah, no, please do.
Okay. So one of them was Alicia saying, "It's nice having my best friend again and enjoying a Saturday on the couch, watching college football, or literally doing nothing or doing many things together. I feel back in orbit now." And then Mateo said, "It's been really good. Our communication has been really good. Alicia's brother is going to be proposing next weekend, and Alicia wanted me to go. And I think I communicated pretty effectively my stance on that. And Alicia was able to listen and process it and then come to me a day later. I thought that was pretty cool. It was totally out of the norm. It used to be a spitfire response right away, so I thought that was very positive."
Excellent.
And then a final one from Alicia. She says, "One of the biggest takeaways for me is realizing that we're two completely different people, and it's not that the way we do things is right or wrong. I recognize that Mateo is going to do things his way. I've come to terms with the fact that we both march to the beat of our own drum, and instead of getting upset, I find peace and harmony with that, so I don't get spun out over stupid things."
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So when we had that session with them, they were doing really well together. And we just said to reach out if they ever needed support, and also that they could reach out if they had any good news to share too. And so several months later, we started getting some texts from them, or you got some texts, I think, or maybe it was a group chat. I can't remember.
It was a group chat.
Yeah. And so one of them was, "Happy New Year to you and Rohini. Words cannot describe the transformation of my life with Alicia. With that, we head into the new year with utmost excitement. We wish we were there to give you a big hug. Happy New Year." And then a few months after that, "Hi, Angus. Hope you and Rohini are well. Alicia and I are hunkered down celebrating our 8-year dating anniversary. Things are wonderful since moving back in. We thank you endlessly for that." And then I didn't write the dates on these. So this was a few months after that, I would say. Mm-hmm. And this is to you. "Hey, Angus, we were thinking about you guys the other day. We are due in December, but he can come any day now. Sorry we've been disconnected, but I haven't been feeling very well." That was from Alicia. "And Mateo has been such a trooper taking care of me. We miss you, and we'd love to schedule a time to catch up with you both." So you know how it is with a new baby. We haven't actually had the time to formally catch up with them, but we hope to at some point. But we want all of you to know that it was quite the journey, and we're so grateful that they allowed us to be with them on it and get them to this point where they're really thriving and enjoying the relationship and their family. And hopefully the understanding is going to serve them well.
Yeah. And I did get my Hollywood. I did get my Hollywood ending in the end.
Aww.
And you know what better gift for them to be able to have a baby. And I think that I felt really emotional listening to all that. I couldn't have read it without falling apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is really heartwarming. And just for full disclosure, I did cry when I was listening back to that session with them. But we really hope that you've enjoyed listening to this series, and we are going to answer the questions that have come in the next episode. We'll get to some of the questions that you've asked, and we're really grateful for you to be on this journey with us listening, and we hope that you've learned a thing or two about yourself, about relationships, about life, and that you are feeling rewilded through being on this journey with us.
Yeah. See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to Rewilding Love. If you enjoyed this podcast, please let us know by subscribing on iTunes, and we would love for you to leave a review there.
iTunes reviews will steer people to this podcast who need help with their relationships.
If you would like to learn more about our work and our online Rewilding community, please visit our website, therewilders.org.
Thanks for listening. Join us next week.